Rouladen today. Okay, great.
Oh, look at my shadow.
This is cooking in Canada. So I'm feeling nostalgic for my family recipes, so I'm going to share them with you. And today we're making something that my family really loves. We always make this anytime we're celebrating, and it's called Rouladen. And this is how you start. So this is a piece of inside round, and in Canada, like if you, or at least where I'm from and around this part of Canada, if you ask the butcher for rouladen, they know what it is, and they usually have it already cut and everything. Okay, so here's what you do. Okay. So that's all flattened out, so it's gonna cook really evenly, and now we add our filling. So the first thing is you need your mustard, and we're using Dijon mustard, but just use whatever mustard you like. I think this gives a nice kick. It's good. And like these are all going to stew together, all your rouladen. So the Dijon mustard gives the gravy that you make from the stew, sorry, it gives it a great flavor. I had a hard time getting that one out. Okay. Now this is a process that's really good if you want to do an assembly line. So that's how normally it goes in my household. You have some of the kids doing the mustard spreading portion, or this part, which is the next part, which is to sprinkle the fillings inside. So we have some finely diced or minced onion, white onion, and just sprinkle that on top. Okay, so you want an even layer, and then the next item inside is a little, I guess, diced dill pickle. And that just adds a nice little vinegary bite to this really rich dish. Okay, so that looks great. And then, because the inside round is such a lean cut of meat, it's really necessary to add a bit of bacon, and this is lightly rendered, and I'll show you what we're gonna do with some of the bacon fat a little bit later. Okay, so that looks great. Now we add a little bit of pepper. Season it with salt, but not too much, because of course the pickles, onions, well, not the onions, but the pickles, the mustard, and the bacon all have a little salt in them, so just a little. And then some paprika. Now normally we would use the unsmoked variety, but right now I just have the smoked. But both are good. I've made both and it tastes great. So, okay, don't be shy with that. Now the fun part. Beautiful.
I think it's pretty hot. Great.
So I'm just gonna do that right here. Here we go. The outside should get some salt and pep too, you know? Little pepper, maybe. Say the full word. Sometimes my brain pulls full on pranks on me. It's like I do salt and pepper on these two, and then I think, okay, autopilot, you're gonna do salt and pepper, and then my brain goes, ha, no, I wanna do pepper. No, you don't. We're gonna do salt. So here we go. You're gonna flip, and you want to do the same thing on the seam side. Okay, now I find it best to sear seam side down first, and you're kind of gonna try to like solder the meat back together, like, or just together. Okay, so here's our seam. So I'm gonna put that down in the pan first. This is the pan that I rendered the bacon in. So remember I said, I'll show you what we're gonna do with the rendered bacon fat. So this is what we're doing. We're using the rendered fat and those little yummy bits at the bottom to sear these really beautifully. Look at that. So you want that dark, rich color on all sides of your rouladen. That one needs to get browner. And it's all this stuff, all that stuff falling out, that's good. That's like some of the onions and stuff coming out of the rouladen, but all of this is gonna go into the gravy and flavor the gravy, so it's perfect. Although if you wanna, you know, dab some of the fat out with a paper towel or just dump some out, which sometimes I like to do, we'll do that at the end once the meat is fully seared. They're looking beautifully dark brown. I could go, you know, you could always go a little more if you want, but I also don't want them to dry out. I don't want the bits on the bottom to burn, so I think we're in a really good spot right now. So I'm just gonna lift these out and set them in the pan that I'm planning on braising them in.
What kind of pan?
This is a like cast iron pot, so it's great for braises. But now that, just while the pan is still really hot, we're gonna deglaze with some water. You can deglaze with whatever you like. Red wine would be really nice in this, but this is how we make it in my house. Or I guess in my grandma's house. So just bring that up to a boil and make sure you're scraping up all those bits. This method, using the par-cooked bacon and then searing the rouladen in the bacon fat, is like a hybrid method that I developed between my mom and my grandma's rouladen method. So my grandma normally just adds raw bacon right to the center, and I think that's the traditional way. And my mom likes to cook the bacon crispy and then discard the fat and just put the crispy bacon in the middle. And I don't want to discard that great fat. So I was like, well, I still want to use the fat, but I also like the idea of having it a little rendered. So this is what I do. All that goodness is now dissolved into this liquid. We're going to just turn off our heat and dump this right on top of our rouladen. Ooh, amazing. Now, all you have to do is top it off with, you could use broth if you want. Again, we just use water in my family. So just top it so they're barely covered with water, and then braise them until they're tender with a fork. It's gonna need a couple hours. Maybe, no, you know what? Not a couple hours. It's probably gonna need, sorry. I'll put this back on the stove. It's gonna need 45 to an hour, and then test it. Looks beautiful. The gravy looks amazing. I'm going to just put these on the side because we want to thicken up our gravy. Wow, look how beautiful they are. And also we want to remove that toothpick. But actually you kind of want them to cool down to the touch first. So right now they're obviously steaming hot. Look how nice they look. Oh, so beautiful. Now I'm gonna strain the gravy. And I also have my potatoes boiling because it's nice to serve this with some boiled potatoes. Okay, there's a few more scoops, but I'm just going to strain that after. I'm gonna thicken this in the pot with a roux. We're gonna add some butter and make a nice roux. So that looks good, about 2 tablespoons. And then, so we're just gonna let that melt. Okay, it's now melted, and I am going to add my flour and make a little roux to thicken this gravy up. And we have a lot of liquid, so I'm gonna make it a pretty stiff roux. Okay, so you just want to cook your little crumbles just for a second until they start to get toasty, and then start slowly adding in your broth. So because the broth is hot, you do want to go little by little. If it was cold, then you're not really afraid of lumps forming. So you want to get a smooth paste, get rid of all those little lumps before you add some more. Very smooth and luxurious. We can add our broth a little bit more generously. And keep going. This isn't supposed to be a super, super thick gravy. It's just supposed to be, you know, nicely viscous. Now I'm going to bring this to a boil and let it thicken. And this leftover jus you can always freeze, but I like to keep it left over for now in case we need to thin this out. Honestly, it looks really good. You can see the gravy thickening up. Okay, I'm gonna taste it and adjust for seasoning. Look at the gravy consistency. That's what we're really looking for. It is gonna thicken up slightly a little more, but this is pretty much it. Okay, let's taste. Okay, it's really good, but it needs a little bit more salt, and I'm actually going to turn it down because it doesn't need to get much thicker than that. Salt, and I'll add a little more pepper. That's going to be perfect. Toss those babies in the gravy. Here we are. Our rouladen is finally done. So I have a plate here, and I have some boiled potatoes, which would be a classic accompaniment. I like to leave the skins on. Yummy. Okay, and now we get our beautiful roulade with all the gravy on top. Looks so good. And look how beautifully it held together, just with a toothpick. Now I'll use this spoon again to sauce my potatoes. And it's just a really light but flavorful gravy. Just lightly coating everything. It's not too thick. And one more spoon for me because yum. Great. Time to eat this. Looks amazing. And look how tender that is. So, so, so tender. And just pull it apart. Yum. But I'm gonna cut it. Oh, yum. And then you see all the bacon, the mustard, all that deliciousness in there. Get some gravy. It's so good. So tasty. The paprika, the bacon, the onion, that little bit of pickle, the delicious gravy, a little potato. What more do you want? It's so yummy, so comforting, but it feels so special.
Okay. Like and subscribe.
Wow, so good. If you've never heard of this dish, you should subscribe to my channel to learn more about food. And like this video. Thanks.